Welcome to another episode of the Peak Performance Podcast, where we explore the science and practice of human optimization. I'm Brad Young, and today we're diving deep into a training method that's been used by elite athletes, special forces operators, and peak performers around the world: calisthenics. We'll compare it to other training methods, explore why the world's best rely on it, and show you exactly how to implement it into your own training regimen. The ancient art of bodyweight mastery. Before we had weight rooms, resistance bands, or sophisticated training equipment, humans had one primary tool for building strength, power, and resilience: their own body. Calisthenics, derived from the Greek words kalos, meaning beauty, and sthenos, meaning strength, represents the purest form of physical training. It's not just about building muscle or improving cardiovascular fitness. It's about mastering the relationship between your mind and body, developing functional strength that translates directly to real world performance. What makes calisthenics particularly fascinating is its accessibility and scalability. Whether you're a complete beginner struggling with your first push up or an advanced athlete performing one arm pull ups, the principles remain the same. You're working against gravity, learning to control your body through space, and building strength that serves a purpose beyond aesthetics. This fundamental simplicity is what has kept calisthenics relevant across centuries, cultures, and training philosophies. Understanding the training landscape. To truly appreciate what calisthenics offers, we need to understand the broader context of training methodologies available today. The fitness industry has evolved dramatically over the past few decades, giving us an unprecedented array of options for physical development. Traditional weightlifting, machines, kettlebells, resistance bands, functional training systems, high intensity interval training. And yes, calisthenics. Each approach comes with its own philosophy, benefits, and limitations. The challenge for most people isn't finding a way to train, it's choosing the right method that aligns with their goals, lifestyle, and physical capabilities. Too often, we get caught up in dogmatic thinking, believing that one approach is universally superior to all others. The reality is far more nuanced. Elite performers understand this, which is why they typically employ multiple training modalities strategically throughout their preparation cycles. However, there's a reason why calisthenics remains a cornerstone of military training, athletic development programs, and rehabilitation protocols worldwide. The calisthenics advantage: core benefits: functional strength development, build strength that translates directly to real world movements and athletic performance, enhance joint health, promotes natural movement patterns that strengthen stabilizing muscles and connective tissue, superior body control, develops proprioception and kinesthetic awareness that improves overall athleticism, ultimate accessibility, requires minimal equipment and can be performed anywhere, anytime. And these advantages aren't just theoretical, they're proven daily by athletes and operators who rely on peak physical performance for their success and survival. When Navy SEALs are preparing for missions or Olympic gymnasts are honing their craft, calisthenics forms the foundation of their training. The question isn't whether calisthenics works, but rather how we can harness its benefits most effectively for our individual needs. Traditional weightlifting, the heavy metal alternative. Let's start our comparison by examining traditional weightlifting, the practice of using external resistance like barbells, dumbbells, and weight machines to build strength and muscle mass. This approach has dominated commercial fitness for decades, and for good reason. The ability to precisely control resistance levels, incrementally increase load, and isolate specific muscle groups makes weightlifting an incredibly effective tool for building raw strength and muscular development. The positives of weightlifting are substantial. Progressive overload is straightforward. You simply add more weight to the bar. Measuring progress is objective and satisfying. For pure muscle hypertrophy and maximal strength development, particularly in the posterior chain, weightlifting offers advantages that are difficult to replicate with body weight alone. Powerlifters and bodybuilders have built impressive physiques and strength levels using these methods, and the science supporting resistance training is robust and well established. However, weightlifting comes with notable limitations. The equipment requirements create barriers to access and consistency. Most people need a gym membership or significant home investment. The movement patterns, while effective for building strength, often don't translate as directly to functional, real world activities. There's also an increased injury risk when lifting heavy loads, particularly for those without proper coaching or when fatigue compromises form. Additionally, weightlifting tends to be less effective at developing the dynamic multiplanar movement control that characterizes true athleticism. Machine based training, guided resistance. Resistance machines represent another popular training modality, particularly in commercial gym settings. These devices control the movement path, theoretically making exercises safer and more accessible to beginners. Machines can be excellent for rehabilitation, isolation work, and allowing training to continue when injuries limit free weight options. They're also less intimidating for newcomers and require less technical skill to use effectively. The drawbacks, however, are significant from a performance perspective. Machines lock you into fixed movement patterns that don't exist in real life. They eliminate the need for stabilizing muscles to engage, which means you're not developing the integrated strength that transfers to sport or daily activities. The strength you build on a leg press machine, for instance, doesn't automatically translate to explosive sprinting or jumping power. Furthermore, machines are expensive, take up significant space, and obviously can't be used outside of a facility that owns them. For anyone interested in developing true athletic capacity and functional movement quality, machine training should be viewed as a supplement rather than a foundation. High intensity interval training, the conditioning component. The HIIT promise. High intensity interval training has exploded in popularity, promising maximum results in minimal time. Classes like CrossFit, Orange Theory, and boutique HIIT studios have built entire business models around this approach. Cardiovascular benefits. The HIIT undeniably improves cardiovascular fitness, metabolic conditioning, and work capacity. The time efficiency is real. You can achieve significant physiological adaptations in shorter sessions compared to traditional steady state cardio. The sustainability question. The challenge with HIIT is sustainability and recovery. These workouts are taxing on the central nervous system and require adequate recovery. When performed too frequently or without proper progression, they can lead to overtraining, injury, and burnout. Many HIIT programs incorporate calisthenic movements, burpees, mountain climbers, jump squats, but often execute them at such high speeds and volumes that form deteriorates and injury risk increases. The intensity becomes the focus rather than quality of movement. This represents a misapplication of calisthenics principles rather than a flaw in the method itself. When used strategically, HIIT can complement a calisthenics foundation, but it shouldn't replace skill development and strength building phases. Why special forces choose calisthenics. And when your life depends on physical readiness, you don't have the luxury of training methods that don't work. This is why military special forces units around the world, Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, British SAS, Israeli Sayeret Matkal, all emphasize calisthenics as a cornerstone of their physical preparation. These aren't amateur athletes looking for a beach body. They're elite operators who need functional strength, endurance, and resilience under the most demanding conditions imaginable. The reasons are both practical and physiological. In the field, special forces operators don't have access to gyms or equipment. They need to maintain peak conditioning using only their body weight in whatever environment they find themselves in. Calisthenics develops the exact qualities these professionals require: relative strength, strength to body weight ratio, muscular endurance, work capacity, injury resilience, and the ability to move their bodies efficiently through complex environments. A Navy SEAL needs to climb, carry, sprint, swim, and fight, often all in the same mission. Calisthenics prepares them for this multi-domain physical demand better than any other single training method. Moreover, the mental toughness developed through progressive calisthenics training, pushing through another rep when your muscles are burning, holding a static position when every fiber wants to quit, directly translates to the psychological resilience required in combat situations. The training doesn't just build physical capacity, It forges the mindset of someone who refuses to quit when conditions become uncomfortable. Elite athletes and body weight training. Look at the physiques and movement capacity of elite gymnasts, and you'll see what pure calisthenics training can achieve. These athletes possess some of the highest strength to weight ratios in all of sport, combined with flexibility, body control, and power that most weightlifters could only dream of. They built this capacity almost entirely through body weight training progressions and ring work. But it's not just gymnasts. Professional fighters incorporate extensive calisthenics into their training camps. Soccer players use body weight circuits for conditioning and agility. Basketball players employ plyometric calisthenics for vertical jump development. Track sprinters utilize sprint mechanics drills and body weight strength work. The common thread is that these athletes recognize the transfer of calisthenic training to their sport specific demands. What these elite athletes understand is that strength without control is useless in competition. The synchronized firing of muscle groups, the proprioceptive awareness of body position in space, the ability to express strength dynamically through multiple planes of motion. These qualities are developed optimally through progressive body weight training. When an NBA player executes a complex layup through traffic, they're demonstrating calisthenic strength in action, body control, dynamic stability, and functional power generation. The mobility revolution. Movement quality matters. Modern movement dysfunction. Chronic sitting, repetitive movement patterns, and lack of varied physical activity have created an epidemic of movement dysfunction in modern society. The cost of immobility. Restricted range of motion leads to compensatory patterns, increased injury risk, and diminished athletic performance across all domains. Calisthenics is movement medicine. Body weight training inherently demands and develops mobility through full ranges of motion, addressing dysfunction at its source. One of the most underappreciated benefits of calisthenics is its profound impact on mobility and movement quality. Unlike machines that support you through a fixed range or weights that you can muscle through with compensation, body weight movements require you to possess the mobility to complete the exercise properly. A deep squat, a full push up, an overhead squat, these movements diagnose and address mobility limitations simultaneously. This built in mobility development is why long term calisthenics practitioners tend to move better and maintain their physical capabilities longer than those who rely exclusively on other training methods. The practice naturally incorporates dynamic stretching, in-range strengthening, and controlled articular rotations that keep joints healthy and mobile. You're not just getting stronger, you're expanding your usable range of motion and teaching your nervous system to control that range under load. The negative side, calisthenics limitations. To provide a balanced perspective, we need to acknowledge where calisthenics falls short compared to other methods. First, progressive overload can be more complex with body weight training. While you can add weight with barbells in predictable increments, progressing in calisthenics often requires changing leverage, range of motion, or movement tempo, variables that are less intuitive for beginners to manipulate effectively. Second, developing maximal strength in specific lifts or pure muscle hypertrophy can be slower with calisthenics alone, particularly for the posterior chain. A powerlifter trying to increase their deadlift max or a bodybuilder trying to build massive legs will likely achieve those specific goals more efficiently with weighted implements. The loading potential is simply greater when you can put a barbell on your back. Third, calisthenics requires more patience and body awareness to master. The learning curve for basic movements like proper push-ups or pull-ups can be steep for deconditioned individuals. This initial barrier can be discouraging compared to the immediate feedback of lifting a weight. Additionally, some people struggle with the self-directed nature of calisthenics training. Without the external validation of increasing numbers on a weight stack, they lose motivation. Finally, certain muscle groups are genuinely difficult to target effectively with pure calisthenics. The hamstrings, lower back, and certain shoulder muscles can be challenging to load adequately through body weight alone. This is why intelligent programming often includes some supplementary weighted work or creative solutions like towel leg curls or Nordic curls. Overcoming the pull up barrier. One of the most common frustrations in calisthenics is the pull up. For many people, especially those starting from a sedentary baseline or carrying excess body weight, a single pull up seems impossibly distant. This perception creates a psychological barrier that prevents people from even attempting a calisthenics journey. However, this challenge also illustrates a key principle of body weight training. Every exercise exists on a spectrum of difficulty that can be systematically progressed. The path to your first pull up isn't mysterious. It's a series of logical progressions that build the requisite strength. You start with inverted rows, where your feet remain on the ground and you pull your chest to a bar set at waist height. You practice dead hangs to develop grip strength and shoulder stability. You perform negative pull ups, using a box to jump to the top position and then lowering yourself down with control. You experiment with band assisted pull ups, gradually using lighter assistance as you grow stronger. Each of these progressions builds strength in the specific muscle groups and movement patterns required for the full expression of the exercise. And this progressive approach isn't a limitation of calisthenics, it's actually one of its greatest strengths. You're learning to meet your body where it currently is and systematically expanding its capabilities. The person who spends months working toward their first pull up and finally achieves it has developed not just physical strength, but also persistence, body awareness, and problem solving skills that transfer far beyond the gym. Building your foundation. Essential movement patterns. Push patterns. Push ups, dips, and handstand progressions develop pressing strength and shoulder stability. Pull patterns. Pull ups, rows, and hanging work build back strength and grip capacity. Squat patterns. Air squats, pistol progressions, and jump variations strengthen legs and develop power. Hinge patterns. Single leg bridges, Nordic curls, and good mornings target posterior chain. Core stability. Planks, hollow holds, and anti rotation exercises build trunk strength. Locomotion. Crawling, jumping, and sprint work develop dynamic athleticism. A complete calisthenics program addresses all fundamental human movement patterns. Too often, people get caught up in flashy skills and neglect the basics. Master these 6 categories, and you'll possess a level of functional strength and body control that serves any athletic or real world demand. Programming principles. How to structure your training. Effective calisthenics programming follows the same principles as any intelligent strength training approach: progressive overload, adequate recovery, balance development, and periodization. However, the application differs from traditional weightlifting protocols. Instead of adding weight to the bar each week, you're manipulating leverage, time under tension, range of motion, and movement complexity to create progressive challenge. A fundamental principle is the push-pull balance. For every pushing movement you perform, you should include a roughly equivalent pulling movement. This maintains structural balance in the shoulders and prevents the forward rounded posture epidemic we see in modern society. Similarly, you need to balance quad dominant movements with posterior chain work and static holds with dynamic movements. Frequency is another key consideration. Unlike heavy barbell training that might require 48 to 72 hours of recovery between sessions for the same muscle groups, calisthenics is often less systemically taxing. Many practitioners train 5 to 6 days per week using varied movement patterns and intensity levels to allow continuous training without overreaching. This higher frequency actually accelerates skill acquisition. The motor learning component of calisthenics benefits from regular practice. The concept of greasing the groove, popularized by strength coach Pavel Tsatsouline, is particularly effective for calisthenics. Instead of training to failure in a single session, you perform multiple submaximal sets throughout the day, accumulating volume without excessive fatigue. This approach is how many people achieve their first pull-up or first handstand, frequent practice at moderate intensity rather than infrequent maximal efforts. The 30-day foundation challenge. Week 1. Days 1 to 2. Assessment and baseline. Establish where you currently are. Maximum push-ups, maximum hold time in plank, how close you are to a pull-up squat depth quality. This honest assessment informs your starting point. Days 3 to 4, push and core focus. 4 sets of push ups at 60% of your max, 3 sets of pike push ups, 3 sets of tricep dips on a box or bench. Core work, 3 sets of 30-second planks, 3 sets of dead bugs. Days 5 to 6, pull and leg focus. 4 sets of inverted rows, 3 sets of dead hangs for maximum time, 3 sets of negative pull ups if possible. Legs, 4 sets of air squats, 3 sets of lunges, 3 sets of glute bridges. Day 7, active recovery. Light movement, mobility work, walking. Let your body integrate the stimulus from the first week. The first week, it establishes the movement patterns and begins building work capacity. Don't push for maximal effort yet. You're teaching your body new movement patterns and preparing tissues for increased demands. Focus on quality of movement over quantity of repetitions. Week 2, building volume. By week 2, the initial muscle soreness should be subsiding and your body is adapting to the new training stimulus. This is when we begin increasing volume. More sets, more total repetitions, slightly longer work periods. The movements remain the same as week 1, but you're increasing the challenge through greater volume rather than intensity. Monday and Wednesday, focus on push patterns and core stability. You'll perform 5 sets of push-ups instead of 4, adding a 5th set of pike push-ups and dips. Plank holds extend from 30 seconds toward 45 seconds. You're also introducing more dynamic core work, mountain climbers, bicycle crunches, and hanging knee raises if you have access to a bar. Tuesday and Thursday emphasize pulling and lower body work. Your inverted rows increase to 5 sets, and you're spending more total time in the dead hang position, 3 sets for maximum duration, rather than a specific time target. The negative pull-ups should feel slightly easier now. If you started on a box, perhaps you can lower from a lower starting height. For legs, you're adding jump squats to develop power, increasing lunge volume, and incorporating single leg variations to identify and address asymmetries. Friday becomes a full body circuit day, combining elements from throughout the week in a continuous flow. This introduces a conditioning component while reinforcing all the movement patterns you've been developing. Saturday remains an active recovery day, and Sunday can be complete rest or light movement based on how you feel. Listen to your body. If you're genuinely fatigued, take the rest. Adaptation happens during recovery, not during training. Week 3, introducing complexity. Movement progressions. This week introduces harder variations of basic movements. Regular push-ups might progress to archer push-ups, diamond push-ups, or decline push-ups. Squats might advance to Bulgarian split squats or narrow stance variations that challenge stability. Tempo manipulation. Rather than always performing exercises at a moderate pace, you're now incorporating tempo changes. A slow eccentric push-up taking 4 seconds to lower creates significantly greater time under tension and muscle damage stimulus for growth. Isometric holds. Adding static holds at challenging positions, bottom of a squat, top of a pull-up L-sit position builds strength in specific ranges of motion and develops mental toughness. Week 3 is often where people experience a breakthrough in their training. The movements that felt impossibly difficult 2 weeks ago now feel manageable. You might achieve your first full pull-up this week, or hold a plank for 90 seconds, or complete a set of pistol squat progressions with control. These victories are crucial for maintaining motivation and reinforcing that the process is working. The key is continuing to show up consistently even when progress feels slow. Trust the process. Your body's adapting even when you can't see dramatic changes day to day. Week 4, consolidation and testing. The final week of your 30-day foundation serves 2 purposes: consolidating the adaptations you've made and testing your progress against your initial baseline. This isn't about going all out every session. In fact, the first half of the week features slightly reduced volume to ensure you're fresh for end-of-week testing. Monday and Wednesday workouts maintain the complexity and variations from week 3, but with slightly fewer total sets. You're giving your body a chance to recover and supercompensate from the accumulated training stress of the previous 3 weeks. This principle of a deload week is used by athletes at all levels and is essential for long term progress. Many people resist backing off, fearing they'll lose progress, but the opposite is true. This strategic reduction allows your body to fully adapt and often results in performance breakthroughs. Thursday becomes your retest day. You perform the same assessments you did on day one: maximum push ups, maximum plank hold, pull up attempt, squat quality evaluation. The improvements you see here, and you will see improvements if you've been consistent, provide objective evidence that the program is working and motivation to continue beyond these initial 30 days. Don't be discouraged if the progress seems modest. Even a few additional repetitions or 10 seconds longer hold time represents real adaptation. Friday can be a celebration workout, a fun circuit or challenge that lets you enjoy your newfound capabilities without the pressure of testing. Saturday and Sunday are complete rest days, allowing you to finish the program fully recovered and ready to plan your next training phase. This is where many people make the mistake of immediately jumping into harder training. Instead, take these days to reflect on what you've learned about your body and plan intelligently for continued progress. Beyond the foundation, scaling for advanced athletes, beginner phase. Learning movement patterns, building base strength, developing consistency. Intermediate phase. Increasing volume and complexity, mastering basic skills, addressing weaknesses. Advanced phase. Skill acquisition, strength skill integration, periodized programming. Elite phase. Sport-specific application, competition preparation, continuous refinement. The 30-day foundation is just the beginning of your calisthenics journey. Advanced practitioners progress towards skills like muscle ups, one-arm pull-ups, handstand push-ups, front levers, planches, and human flags. These movements require years of dedicated training, but they represent the ultimate expression of relative strength and body control. Even if you never pursue these elite skills, the progressions toward them will continuously challenge and develop your physical capabilities. Integration, combining calisthenics with other methods. Despite my enthusiasm for calisthenics, I don't advocate for exclusive bodyweight training for everyone. The most effective approach for most people is an integrated program that emphasizes calisthenics as the foundation but intelligently incorporates other methods where they offer unique advantages. This hybrid approach leverages the benefits of each modality while minimizing their respective limitations. A practical integration might look like this. Your primary strength and skill work is calisthenics based. Push-ups, pull-ups, squats, core work performed 4 to 5 days per week. This develops your movement foundation, functional strength, and mobility. Once or twice per week, you supplement with weighted exercises that target areas difficult to load with body weight alone. Barbell deadlifts or Romanian deadlifts for the posterior chain, weighted dips or weighted pull-ups to continue progression when body weight becomes too easy, or barbell squats if you're pursuing maximal leg strength. You might also include sprint work or plyometrics for power development, and perhaps a kettlebell or two for their unique loading patterns and conditioning benefits. The key is maintaining calisthenics as your base, the movements you do most frequently and prioritize for technical mastery, while strategically adding other tools where they serve your specific goals. This prevents the common mistake of program hopping, where you abandon one approach entirely when you discover another, never allowing sufficient time for adaptation to occur. Nutrition and recovery, the training multipliers. Fueling performance. Adequate protein intake supports muscle recovery and growth. Calisthenics practitioners need similar protein requirements to weightlifters, roughly 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of body weight. Carbohydrates provide energy for training sessions, while healthy fats support hormone production and joint health. Sleep quality. Adaptation happens during recovery, not during training. Prioritize 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep nightly. Sleep is when your body releases growth hormone, consolidates motor learning, and repairs tissue damage from training. Hydration. Proper hydration affects everything from strength output to cognitive function to recovery capacity. Aim for at least half your body weight in ounces of water daily, more on training days and in hot weather. No training program, no matter how intelligently designed, can overcome consistently poor nutrition and inadequate recovery. These aren't secondary considerations, they're fundamental requirements for progress. Many people train hard but fail to see results because they're not providing their bodies with the raw materials and rest needed to adapt. If you're committed to the 30-day foundation program, commit equally to eating adequately and sleeping sufficiently. Mobility work, the secret weapon. One of the most transformative aspects of a dedicated calisthenics practice is the mobility development that occurs as a natural byproduct of training. However, you can accelerate this benefit by incorporating dedicated mobility work into your routine. This doesn't need to be complex. 10 to 15 minutes daily of targeted stretching and mobility drills will yield significant results over time. Focus on the areas that typically limit calisthenics performance: shoulder mobility for overhead work and handstand progressions, thoracic spine extension for proper pressing mechanics, hip mobility for deep squats and single leg work, and ankle dorsiflexion for squat depth and overall movement quality. These mobility restrictions aren't just training limitations, they're injury risks and movement compensations that will eventually cause problems. The best time for mobility work is often separate from your main training session. Morning mobility routines are excellent for starting the day, preparing your body for whatever physical demands you'll face. Evening mobility work before bed can improve sleep quality and accelerate recovery. You can also incorporate specific mobility drills into your warm-up before training, addressing the ranges of motion you'll need for that session's exercises. The key is consistency. Daily practice, even if brief, produces better results than occasional longer sessions. Common mistakes and how to avoid them. Training to failure, too frequently. Constantly pushing to complete muscular failure creates excessive fatigue and slows progress. Most sets should end with 1 to 2 reps still possible. Neglecting progressions. Trying to jump directly to advanced skills without mastering prerequisites leads to frustration and injury. Respect the progression ladder. Poor recovery practices. Training hard every day without adequate rest, nutrition, or sleep prevents adaptation. Your body needs time to rebuild stronger. Ignoring pain signals. Distinguishing between productive discomfort and pain. Indicating injury is crucial. If something hurts rather than burns, stop and assess. Chasing only impressive skills. Focusing exclusively on flashy movements while neglecting fundamental strength leads to imbalanced development and injury. Learning from others' mistakes is far less painful than making them yourself. If you're experiencing persistent pain, plateauing despite consistent training, or feeling constantly fatigued, one of these errors is likely the culprit. The solution is usually stepping back, reassessing your approach, and returning to fundamentals. The mindset of mastery. Long-term thinking. Perhaps the most important lesson calisthenics teaches is patience and long-term thinking. In a culture obsessed with quick fixes and rapid transformations, bodyweight training demands a different approach. You cannot rush motor learning. You cannot force your connective tissue to adapt faster than its biological timeline allows. You cannot achieve a skill before your body's prepared for it. This is frustrating for many people initially, but it's also liberating once you accept it. When you commit to calisthenics as a long-term practice rather than a short-term program, your entire relationship with training transforms. You stop comparing yourself to others and start comparing yourself to who you were yesterday. You stop seeking validation through impressive skills and start finding satisfaction in steady improvement. You stop viewing workouts as punishments for poor eating or obligations to fulfill and start experiencing them as opportunities to explore what your body can do. This mindset shift extends beyond training into other areas of life. The discipline required to show up consistently, the patience to progress through proper progressions, and the humility to work on weaknesses rather than only showcasing strengths These qualities serve you in career pursuits, relationships, and personal development. Calisthenics becomes more than physical training, it becomes a practice of self mastery. The athletes and operators who rely on calisthenics aren't seeking the fastest results or the most impressive physiques. They're building reliable, sustainable physical capacity that serves them for decades. They understand that training is never finished. It's an ongoing practice of maintaining and gradually expanding capabilities. This is the mindset that transforms training from a burden into a source of fulfillment. Your next steps, continuing the journey. As we close this episode, I want to leave you with clear direction for moving forward. The 30-day foundation program we outlined gives you a proven starting point, but your journey doesn't end there. After completing these initial 4 weeks, you have several options for progression depending on your goals and how your body responded to the training. Option 1 is to repeat the 30-day foundation with increased difficulty, harder variations of each exercise, more volume, shorter rest periods. This approach is appropriate if you felt significantly challenged by the initial program and want to solidify your base before moving to more complex training. There's no shame in building a stronger foundation. Elite athletes spend years perfecting fundamental movements before attempting advanced skills. Option 2 is to pursue a specific skill that excites you, perhaps your first pull up, your first handstand, or your first pistol squat. Focus your training around the progressions for that skill while maintaining general strength work for balance. This goal-focused approach provides clear direction and maintains motivation as you work toward a concrete achievement. Option 3 is to integrate calisthenics into a broader training program, as we discussed earlier, combining body weight work with strategic use of other training modalities. This hybrid approach works well for athletes with sport-specific needs or individuals with particular strength goals that pure calisthenics addresses less efficiently. Regardless of which path you choose, the principles remain constant: progressive overload, adequate recovery, consistent practice, and patience with the process. Your body is capable of remarkable adaptation, but it requires intelligent training, proper fuel, and sufficient rest to realize that potential. The calisthenics journey is exactly that, a journey, not a destination. There's always another level of strength to achieve, another skill to master, another movement pattern to refine. This endless potential for growth is what makes bodyweight training such a rewarding, lifelong practice. Thank you for joining me for episode 80 of the Peak Performance Podcast. I hope this deep dive into calisthenics has given you both the knowledge and inspiration to explore this powerful training method. Whether you're a complete beginner taking your first steps toward fitness or an experienced athlete looking to enhance your physical capabilities, bodyweight training has something valuable to offer. Until next time, keep training smart, keep moving forward, and remember, the only workout you'll regret is the one you didn't do.